Yo, what's up, everybody? I got UCLA's finest, Marguerite Aozasa. We're here to just have a conversation. Like I said, but before we dive deep into things, is always got to kick things off with a wild or funny story. So, what you got to kick us off with today?
Okay, so this is funny because this happened to me just recently when I gave birth to my daughter. So this was about 9 or 10 weeks ago.
Okay.
And for any of you out there that have gone through the labor process, we all know it's not like the most beautiful or pretty poetic thing. And
Yeah.
so I gave birth the hospital right near UCLA through UCLA Health. So being a coach there is kind of still a thing. It's not a lot of anonymity yet,
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so within 12 hours probably of giving birth, we're in the like postpartum room. It's in the morning, probably like 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock in the morning. I am standing there, like about to get in the shower, first shower since I've gone through this process. So, like, much, much needed. And where we are at the hospital, there's like volunteers that come in and bring water and clear trash from the room and all kind of that really great stuff. A lot of them are UCLA students that are like pre-med.
Yeah.
And so we get a knock on the door. I'm about to get in the shower. I'm literally in like adult diaper, like my pajamas. I'm not even wearing a pajama top. Like I'm just about like literally the worst kind of like vulnerable moment you can imagine. And this young girl comes in. She's like 20 years old. And the first thing she says is, she's like, "Hi, coach." And I was like, "Oh my God."
Yes.
She's like, and it was the sweetest thing. Like she was the sweetest kid ever. But she's like, "This may not be the right moment, but I'm totally fangirling right now." And I was like, "Yeah, this might not be the right moment."
Yeah.
Like, I am so like embarrassed right now. And it was like the funniest thing. My husband's there cracking up, and she proceed like I said, sweetest kid ever. She proceeds to tell me like she's a junior at UCLA, pursuing pre-med, comes to all our games, super fan, loves what we do, just like the best
I,
kid ever. But I was just standing there like this conversation. I just need to move on from this conversation and at
yeah.
least put a shirt on.
This is not the
So
time
yeah,
for an
that's my funny
autograph
one.
and a photo.
Exactly. I was like, this is so kind and so flattering, but I feel so just not flatterable right
Yeah,
now.
yeah. I love it. I love it. Well, that kind of like I guess
Yep.
segues into
Yeah.
things is I guess since becoming a mom, what's kind of over these last like 8, 9 weeks or so is like what's been for you kind of like the biggest transition into because it's right, it's getting accustomed to a completely new routine, right? And so it's like trying to figure that out. We think we know before we have a kid, and then it's here, and then it's like puzzling everything together. So like for you, balancing coach, family, kid, what's kind of been, I guess, the biggest puzzle piece, the big domino that you've been able to like overcome so far?
I think just the realization of like how much time you had yourself before you had kids,
Yeah.
and then how little time you have to yourself after that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just nothing prepares you for that. You just don't realize like either whether it was wasted time during the day where you're scrolling through social media or something, or time like I used to go to yoga 3, 4 times a week. And now if I go once a week, I feel like I accomplished
Accomplished.
something
Yeah.
major.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's something my husband and I have been really grappling with. And then I think just in terms of our relationship, like making sure we find time that we can connect because it can be so easy to just get totally wrapped up in our daughter and all her needs and everything and keeping her alive. And all of a sudden you look across the room and you're like, "Hey, so sorry, barely said hi today." Like, and so making sure that we find that time has been really important. And then it's also made me realize how much I enjoy my job and how fortunate I feel to have a job like that. Like after being away just even 2 weeks, I was itching to go back and just see my team and see my staff and be around the girls. And so, um, not, I hope I never really took that for granted, but now it means even more to me.
Yeah, I can think back. Even my wife is like kind of in that time frame where like where you are, she was just like, oh my God, our life is never going to be the same again. And I'm like, it's not, and that's okay.
Mhm, mhm.
It's like it's just a new chapter or a new book. And you find things that like again that you enjoy doing with this new human being in the world next to you that thrives off of especially mom.
Yeah, yeah.
So I guess going back is what's kind of been for me personally, it's like I don't even know what's been like your journey up to this point to become like where you are like as a coach. I guess if you want to just kind of like jump along like that timeline, it's like I'm personally just interested of like how where you were and like how you got to this point, and then we'll kind of like even like future pace forward of like what your dreams and visions are like now for now moving forward.
Yeah, so I started coaching at a pretty young age. So all the way back when I was in college. So I was very, very fortunate. Well, fortunate and unfortunate. When I was in high school, I tore my ACL twice. So there was quite a long time where I was out playing. And during that time is when I kind of got introduced to coaching. And
Yeah.
so going into college, I had it in the back of my mind that that was something I already knew I really enjoyed. So when I was in college, my sophomore years, when I started coaching two like youth teams, and I coached those two teams for 10 years after that.
Oh
And
wow.
in fact, they just graduated college this, and oh, some of them graduated this year and some will graduate next year. So that's like kind of a cool thing
Yeah,
right
that's
now, watching
wild.
them go through that, playing with against, with, yeah, like playing against them, coaching against some of them right now is really fun. So I was coaching for UCLA. That's a club up in Northern California that I love. And that was kind of like where I got my start, both playing and coaching. So I was in the club sphere for, like I said, starting my sophomore year. And then starting in 2015 is when I started coaching college. And I
Mm,
kind of fell into the college realm, which does never happen to anyone. And I acknowledge that I was very, very fortunate and lucky, honestly, that that's what my path was. And all credit goes to the Stanford staff at the time because they are the ones that decided to kind of give me a chance when I had zero college experience.
right.
So that started in 2015. I was really we had an amazing team, honestly, in 2015, and it just kind of started to build momentum. So I was at Stanford from 2015 until 2021, those seasons. During that time, I think we won the Pac-12 5 times in a row, which was pretty cool. And then we won 2 national championships. So it was just like an incredible time there.
Yeah.
I was fortunate enough to coach some players that are now kind of like the face of the national team. So the Naomi Gurmas of the world, Taryn Davidson, Katerina Macario, Andy Sullivan, like all these players, Sophia Smith came through our program. And it was just so cool. I got really inspired to try to coach at the highest level possible. Then in 2021, we our Stanford season. And then there was an opening at UCLA. And at the time, there was also an opening at USC, which is kind of funny because I thought I might have a better chance at USC. Just, I don't even know why I thought that, that just was in my
Yeah.
mind. Obviously, that's not how it ended up. And so UCLA reached out, and it was a very, very quick process. I've told the story a million times, but I got married the same week that they reached out to me. So it was a very hectic week, but everything worked out well.
Yeah.
And so 2022 was my season at UCLA. And then again, just sometimes I feel like my sister teases me. She's like, some people just live in the light. And sometimes I feel like that's me. Not, sometimes I feel like I'm not doing anything much different than anybody else, but I've been really fortunate that things have worked out so well. And so in our first year, we won a national championship. It was just like kind of fell into place as you would hope it would. The players were awesome, the staff awesome, like everything was just like a fairy tale. And then come back 2023, we had another wonderful season. We had a lot of challenges off the field, just with some of our players going through some really difficult times. And I was really proud of how we kind of came through that, that we played much better soccer in 23 than we did in 2022. But we got humbled in like
Interesting.
the worst way possible and lost in the first round. Um, Outshot a team 22-2 and we lost 1-0. It's just what like soccer has its way with people sometimes, and we are
Yeah.
all like no one can escape it. So we kind of learned our lessons, and credit to the group. Like I think we're as positive as they could be. and really proud still of what we accomplished last year. But it's always nice, like, not, I will never choose to lose anything, but it gives you perspective. And I think the
Yeah.
way they then attacked off season was like very intentional, very purposeful, like kind of wanting to come back with a vengeance. So I'm really excited for this upcoming season. And so yeah, that's kind of where I am right now. I think looking forward right now, I'm really invested in UCLA. I think there's a lot of changes coming to collegiate sports, and we feel like we're in a really good place for that. So, really excited to see what the next couple years look like. We want to be basically like the destination spot for the best players in the country, and
Yeah.
we want to kind of set the standard for how college soccer can be played. I think so often because of the difficulty of a short season with so many games, it kind of lends itself to like just a more direct kind of quicker fix version of soccer, because also you have so much turnover every year just with the collegiate system. And we're kind of trying to go against that, where we're going to really try to play like a really beautiful version of the game we all enjoy. So I'm excited to kind of try to do that. If I'm looking 20 years in the future, who knows, maybe like I'd love to coach in the pros one day, and I'd love to coach in the World Cup one day too. So
Yeah.
that's with the US, that'd be amazing. If not that, I would be okay with that too, maybe. Who knows? Just like I think coaching stage would be something super incredible.
Yeah, did you always know? I guess like one of the interesting things, like conversations I had with coaches, did you always know? You said you always knew kind of like coaching was a thing. Did you always know like head coach? The reason I asked because like obviously you know better than I do, but like it's definitely different hats in the sense of like wearing the head coaching hat versus like wearing the assistant hat. And some people like that, and some people don't. And I don't know that there's like a good, bad, right, wrong. I think it's just very indifferent, totally each person's like personality. I guess so. Going back, did you always know head coach, and is it kind of like everything you thought it would be, or has there been like their own like different hurdles and struggles to overcome of like once you put that hat on coming down from Stanford?
Yeah, no, I never like aspired to be. It's not like I had head coach written on my wall every day and trying to like go for that. That was definitely not the case at all. I was super, super happy as an assistant at Stanford. Like I
Yeah,
loved it. I loved the staff. I loved the players. Loved it. I loved that role. And in some ways, I think sometimes my personality fits that role just as well as it fits being a head coach. Um, and so, yeah, I never like aspired. I remember at Stanford, actually, they were like, "What's your 5-year plan?" I'm like, "I'm super happy where I am. So I don't know.
yeah.
Like, I'm, like, are you trying to push me out or what? Like, I'm good. Thank you." Um, and so, yeah, I never had that, like, not aspiration. Of course, I'm ambitious and wanted always to like do my absolute best in whatever role is
Sure.
given, but I was never like chasing being a head coach. Um, and I was just as surprised as anybody when I got hired as a head coach. So, like, it was kind of an interesting transition. I still think like I would be a great assistant today. Like I
Yeah.
don't feel like now that I've tasted being a head coach, that's all I could do. Some of the responsibilities of being a head coach, you know what, I would gladly give those up to just go run some sessions and be the player's favorite again. Like that could be really fun. But as a head coach, like as a head coach, there's a lot of great things to it. And that responsibility really is like an honor, both
Yeah.
for your players and for your staff. Um, but head coaching is hard. There's a weight of responsibility that you just don't feel as an assistant.
Yeah. Yeah. Going back to when you were coaching club and then once got into the college world is from a obviously like there's the physical transition like as you kids just mature and get older. It's kind of like going from college to the pros, right? Like there's just a maturity level. There is definitely that transition, but from like a non-physical standpoint, like what did you see as like the big hurdle to like overcome in terms of like helping them? Obviously, you know, they're in college now. There's the stress, the overwhelmed, and things like that. Were those the big hurdles, or like what was the big difference in those two?
I think just by nature of where I've coached in college at Stanford, like almost every single player we recruit and every player that we have on the team in their club upbringing, they were the best player on their team or something close to it, or one of the best players in the country. And so for those players, a lot of it is just learning. Some of them all of a sudden very quickly have to play a different role on the team. And so
Mm.
helping understand that, helping them see the positives in that, kind of how it can relate to their development, help take a little more ownership of their development, because I think in some cases, like I said, they were the best players. So they've not been asked to push themselves. I mean, they of course were, but it's different. It's different when you're putting yourself and you're the best on the team versus you're pushing yourself and you're striving to get minutes. Like that's a totally different mindset. So kind of being by them when they go through that has been really fascinating. And just watch, like you said, watching them mature. Every year I'm in college, our players feel more and more like kids just because, like now 18, she seems super young to me. And so they're like adult in training is what we kind of say. Some of them are very mature, others of them have some maturing to do.
Not so
And so
much.
I really enjoy that phase of their life. We're kind of figuring out this is the first time they've lived on their own, the first time they've been really given a lot of autonomy. So that part of the college game I really, really enjoy.
Yeah, and I think too is kind of going back to, I always use the analogy is like when we talk about head from assistant, and then I mean, you kind of are their parent, so to speak. But when you're their head coach, it's like mom or dad, and when you're the assistant, it's like big brother, big sister. And so, like you said, is not having those responsibilities. And so I feel like even, and again, you can kind of touch on it a little bit too, is now that you're like the motherly figure for them, is what's been some of those, like, I guess, like maturity challenges? Is it just making decisions? Because most of them, it is the first time a lot of them have to make decisions on their own, aside from like where they want to go to school. That was for a lot of people, that's probably like the first decision they made by themselves. And now they got to make ones every single day.
Yeah. Yeah. It's their decision making. And then it's like how they choose to act in the group. And sometimes we have to help them, like put a better foot forward with the decisions they make as part of the team. We as a staff, I think, try to take a really like thoughtful approach to how we help our players through that. But we have the ones, that they're not pleased with their role on the team. And so they show it in ways that are not favorable to them to kind of help them through that. It's really cool to see their roles change, as they grow up in the team. So what they were like as a first year player versus the role they have now as a senior, like that part is really fun to see, and kind of their own individual. But yeah, the challenge that we found is like how, I guess, watching them and guiding them through balancing their own needs versus the needs of the team, and
Yeah.
how they maneuver in that. Um, that's always a challenge, but it's also super fulfilling when they get right.
Yeah. Yeah. And so how like, I guess, okay, to come in and have like the success that you did is ultimately, to me, is like the root of it is you were able to like come in and connect with them rapidly. And so for you, like, what was it like? What was kind of like your point of emphasis of like, okay, when I step foot in here, it's like this is how I'm going to connect with them, because I know that like the only way they're going to listen to me is if they feel some kind of like connection and bond like with me. Otherwise, it's like, why is she here kind of type mentality, and more of like shrugging the shoulders, blowing it off. And so for you, like, what was like, how did you come in and like build a connection so quickly?
Yeah, so from an individual basis, I met with every single player. So within the first week of me being at UCLA, met with every single one. Kind of similar to this conversation. It was not like lecture. It was very open. It was, okay, what has your experience been so far? What are you hoping it could be? And like, what do you think this team is capable of? And then how can
Yeah.
we bit? And so those conversations, some of them were an hour and a half long, right? Like some of them were more open right away, others a little more reserved, but I think the fact that I didn't come in and say this is how it's going to be really
Yeah.
allowed them to feel bought into what we were doing. I was very open-minded, and I had to change quite a bit what I thought I would do versus what ended up being the right thing to do. Those were very different once I got to know the team and kind of where they were. So we as a staff, I think, really tried to take that approach of like we're all trying to do the same thing here.
Yeah.
We have more experience than you, so going to be the ones kind of making the decisions, but like their opinions were validated right away. And so long as they had the right intention, you know, as long as they were on board, as long as they wanted to do well for the team and they wanted the team to do well, then we're like, yeah, let's hear it. Like, okay, we're open to hearing that. So I think we tried to have conversations very early on, make it clear that like if they had something on their mind, they could talk to us about it. If there was something going on in the team that they felt was disruptive to what we were doing, they could bring it to us. And like we never come down hard on them. We're always like, okay, like let's figure that out. Like
Yeah.
sometimes I'm like, wow, I can't believe you did that. We're gonna have to talk about that later, but let's figure it out right now. Like so, um, we just try. One thing they had mentioned is like all of them at one point in on team where they were afraid to talk to their coaches. That was something that we wanted to make sure that was not the case.
So it's fascinating you bring that up. And this is like, I feel like, and that's the reason I brought it up too, is because I feel like, I mean, clearly, like your results like show for it because like there's no way that you win that fast, like without bit of building connection. It's just like 1+1 is 2 kind of type thing. But I feel like a lot of coaches out there feel like that they have the connection, but they really don't. And I and actually it's literally spot on, like you said, is like previously there wasn't this like feeling to speak freely, so to speak. And in my experience, I feel like, and maybe this is like what you were thinking about doing, then you didn't do. I don't know. I'd love to hear like what you like how those changes made, what you thought you were going to do versus like what you actually did. Because I feel like a lot of times it's like we want to come in and be like, here's all my gold medals, right? Like here's everything that I've done. And then they're just like, I don't give a shit, right? Like that doesn't, there's no kind of connection versus like you sitting down and being like, okay, like I know, like I was once a college kid too. Like I know you're stressed and overwhelmed. Like tell me about that. Like tell me what you're feeling right now. And then we can kind of like talk about things, building things out from there. So yeah, like I'm just fascinated by how many coaches get that wrong of yeah, building connection, but it's like you're not at all.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's so true. Like you said, you tell them all the great things you've done. Most of them don't care or just mean anything to them. Like they were
At
not
all.
there. They do not care. Like, and like they will of course be like, wow, that's really cool, but that's not driving them to do anything. So yeah, like I definitely did not come in and be like, we won this and we won that, and that's why you should listen to me. Like, definitely not. It was more of, okay, like I can see you're struggling. Let's figure that out. Like we had one player who I just have a lot of respect for. And I've told this story a few times, so she knows it. Her name is Sunshine, and she's an incredibly, incredibly talented player. Fitness has never been her thing. And so with the previous staff, she was in some ways underutilized, not necessarily putting that on them. It's just like she could not play longer than 10, 15 minutes a game.
Yeah.
And rather than bring her into the office and reprimand her for not being fit and not exercising her potential, we sat down and we're like, okay, like what can we do to help you get fit? Because we will be a better team when you're on the field. And like 10, 15 minutes to us is just not like it's underutilizing you. So what
Yeah.
can we do to help you? And she'll say like that was the first time a staff was not mad at her for being unfit. And it kind of allowed her to turn the corner and be like, you know what, okay, like I can do this. I got a lot of people behind me like, that want me to be fit, not because of me and that I've let them down, but because like the team will be better if fitter. And
Yeah.
she played 90 minutes in the final. So like that's I think just like a small example, kind of a more black and white example of some of the conversations we had. But I think that for her was life changing.
Yeah. Yeah, and you even mentioned is one of the questions that you asked was, like what do you think this team is like capable of? Like right now, like what do you think is possible for us to accomplish? And that's another big question that I think a lot of coaches think that they're getting honest answers, but without the connection, it's like, okay, what do you want to hear? Why did you come here to coach? And let me give you the answer of like to win Pac-12, to win a national title, to be top four, like whatever the thing is, versus like, no, 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 no. Now that we have a connection here, it's like I can speak freely of like, I think we're a top 10 team. I think we're a top five team. I think we can win a national title. And I see it all the time that that's the biggest hurdle because you essentially have on a team of 20, you've got five rowing this way, five rowing this way, five rowing this way, and five rowing this way. And you're just spinning your wheels. And like it's hard to move exponentially when there's not the honest conversations.
Yeah. Yeah. And kind of, uh, it's kind of funny actually, because a lot of them, when I would ask that, they say, well, we could win a national championship. And a lot of them I told, no, we can't. We are not fit. We are not disciplined. We are not these things. So I was like, as of January right now, no, we can't. Um, but it was honest. And I was like, and that's when I said, look, I've coached teams that have won.
Yeah.
And there's a big gap between what we're doing right now and what it takes to win. But I didn't, again, say it in a way that's like, you're wrong. Like, it was
Yeah.
more, no, like, we've got work to do. And like fitness was a big piece of that. And I'm not a coach that makes us like get on the line and run and whatever. But it's just like there has to be a certain level of fitness needed to compete at our level, mostly because we play so many games in such a short amount of time. Like I'm
Yeah.
not worried on the macro level, one game, 90 minutes. That's not really it. It's can you be fit enough that your body can endure 26 games in 3 months? Like that's really the question. So I often think I come off as like this fitness, whatever, but I'm like, that's not it. Like I'm not, like I don't value fitness over any other part of the game. It's just in order to play how we play over 3 months, 26 games, like you have to be super fit. And so that was a big conversation we had early in January, where I was like, you guys say you want to win a national championship. We are nowhere close physically to do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I told them, like, so either you're going to buy into it and we're going to run, like, and our sessions are going to be hard. We're going to run. You're going to go and recover after in the training room, or we're out in the second round. Like, your choice. Like, either we're going to change our behavior or we're going to change our expectation,
Yeah.
or we're going to
Yeah.
change we're going to change how we play. And that was a big discussion too, because so many of the players
Mm.
and want to play like the brand of soccer that UCLA is known for, which is, very active, very dynamic, very like a lot of cohesive movements around the field and this beautiful possession style soccer. And they also wanted to press, like high press, like, and I told them like both of those things rely on your ability to move. So again, like you're telling me you want to be super fit. Like I was like, what I'm hearing you say is you're telling me you want to be super fit. Because if you don't want to be super fit, then we are not going to play that way. Because you're going to open
Yeah.
yourself up to you're going to lose games, basically. So those were the honest discussions we had. And I hoped that I wasn't coming in a way that they couldn't hear, and it was more of like, we are actually aligned in what we want, but you got to understand what it's going to take to get there.
Yeah. Do you think sometimes like I feel like especially like athletes and teams I'm around that like go home over the summer when you first got there is I think one of the mistakes that like and I think this is just human nature is they thought they were doing more than they actually were. So like in essence of like they thought they were in better shape than they actually were. It's like, wait, what? Like I am in good shape. Like what are you talking about? I run each day or like whatever it is. Or, especially kids training over the summer, like I go to the gym 4 hours and train. I'm like, yeah, but an hour is catching up with your friends, and then another hour is like 30 minutes in the bathroom and 30 minutes doing your hair. Like, so now we're at 2 hours. And so it's like, I think just human nature to be like, yeah, I trained 5 times, 4 hours this week. I'm like, not really, if you really peel back and like look at what you actually did. And so do you think that maybe there was some of that too, kind of at the beginning of like they thought they were or they thought they were in better shape than they were, and it was like, hey, like let me show you reality of what you're saying it is that you want.
Yeah, no, for sure. Like none of them were lazy or anything like that. Like
Yeah,
they all had done whatever had been asked of them. Right. It's just I don't think they had been asked really to reach that next level of what we would just call professionalism and like, alignment between what you really want and what you're doing. Um, so yeah, like none of them were purposefully unfit
right.
or like that wasn't choices they were making. It's just I think they didn't understand kind of what it really took to. But I always say like endure our season because our season is a gauntlet. Like it just physically is really hard. So just what it takes to really endure the season. And I asked the question to them also. I'm like, would there ever be a situation in which you would choose to be less fit than your opponent?
Mm,
Like, would you ever choose that? Probably not. Like, unless you're playing
yeah,
Sunday league, like 40 years from now, then sure. But like you go into a final and the other team's fitter, like that's already a disadvantage, So I'm like,
yeah,
that's not going to be us. Like, there's never a situation in which I would choose to coach the less fit team.
yeah,
So, like, if we make it to the final, we're going to be the fitter team. And we were, I thought, because if you look at how the final played out, like we really played our better soccer as the game wore on. And so that was something we were proud of. Where it's like, no, you
yeah.
guys, and credit to the team. Like I did not run any miles or anything during the season, to be clear. Like I did not run one sprint. So credit to the team. Like they did it and they were intentional about it. They were fit. They took care of their bodies during the season. Like they were on it. Now on the flip side, they did not do that going into last season. Like you
Mm,
get constant. Um, and so we were not fit. And that was the first time probably I came down hard on the team last August when we run our fitness test and we did worse than we've ever done. And I said, like, good luck this season, you guys. Like, now we're going to have to change everything we planned to do with you. We have to change. So when you feel unprepared going to a game, that's on you because we should have been
yeah,
training 30 minutes longer. And like, so we don't, and I basically told him like, we're going to have to run a little extra. We're going to have to modify our training. We're going to have to ask you guys to do things you're not comfortable with. And I was like, and I don't want to hear one complaint because that's on you. And I didn't like, I didn't hear one complaint. And we would joke with the leadership group. I'm like, yeah, if we ask you to run, you run down to the line with a smile on your face because this is a choice you made.
yeah, 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 yeah.
There you go. And, the players laugh because we as a staff like we're very joyful. We don't very 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 rarely are we even stern with the group. And I think they told me afterwards that they went into the locker room and all the returning players were like, oh my gosh, Marg was so mad, like we've never seen her like that, oh my gosh. And I guess the freshman players that I really had just met like 2 weeks, not just met but like just started coaching 2 weeks ago, they were like, wait, was that like mad? Like, was that bad? Like, because it was still not like, volatile or anything like that. It was more just like a stern disappointment. So that was kind of funny after when they were telling us. But credit to the group, like they found a way. And I told them in that little address, we said like one of our challenges now is through the first half of the season is to trick the rest of the country into thinking that we're fit.
Yeah, yeah, right.
I was like, basically, like that's what we're gonna try to do. So like, and I so like even if you're used to playing 80 minutes, I'm like, guess what? You're playing 60. Because if we play you 80 minutes right now, we will not have you at the end of the season.
Yeah,
I'm like, so when we take you out, again, you walk off the field with a smile because like we're helping you. You don't get to be upset now when we sub you.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Based off of your previous decisions. Yeah,
Yeah. I'm
totally.
like, based on what you did this summer, like you have sacrificed your right to be upset when we have to take you off to manage your load.
It's fascinating you say that too. Kind of like even at the end of the year meetings when you like ask people or like whenever I'm around a team and I'm like, okay, let's kind of like review this past season is I stole this from a buddy, this Army Ranger. He calls them AARs, after action reviews. And one of the tools he said is like there's always those people that are silent and that don't give any opinion. And then it's like, okay, when we move forward, but you had no opinion, how do you get to be upset about something that you didn't even speak up on? So kind of to the same point
Mhm.
here, it's like you made the decision to be out of shape. Like, how do you don't get to be upset for not playing the 20 minutes.
Oh yeah, that's what we tell. We're very honest. I think that's another thing we really pride ourselves in, like as a staff. It's just being honest. And so
Yeah.
yeah, I'll tell them like, I'm like, I hear that you're upset. And the first thing I think is like, you don't actually get the right to be upset. I'm like, I could be upset with you. You didn't come fit.
Facts.
Like,
Facts.
I'm like, now I'm happy to have the conversation with you. And then we always say too, though, I'm like, but at the root of it, like you are where you are. And so we still need you. So this is how we're going to manage that. I'm
Yeah.
like, but yeah, like you don't get to be upset when you're playing less minutes.
Yeah, yeah. Go into staff is how did you was it new staff when you came in? Did you choose staff or was it other staff that was already there that you kept on? Like how did you kind of go about that process?
No, I got to bring in my own staff, which I think is super important. Just having that connection within your staff, especially being a
Yeah.
first time coach. Like I just needed people that I knew well and that I could trust, and that it was like, we're all in this together. We're all here
Yeah.
on day one. Like,
Yeah.
I hope the staff doesn't feel a lot of separation between me and them. I know, of course, they do because like I'm responsible for them and I'm responsible for their livelihood, but I really hope that they feel like we're all in this together and like I have their back. And one of my roles, I think, as a head coach is to be their advocate. So I hope they feel that. Um, but yeah, I brought in my own staff. We've had one change since then, because we were able to hire a new assistant with the new legislation with NCAA. And
Mm.
then so we hired one coach, and then she actually moved on and is now a head coach herself. And so we hired another new staff member this for this upcoming fall. And so there's four of us, and I just absolutely love them. Like they just mean so much to me. They're my some of my closest friends. Like I feel so fortunate to go to work every day and see them. I think we're almost like a joke around the country because we enjoy each other so much. There was a moment where like we hadn't seen each other for a while. Oh, it was one of my staff members just got married recently, and so we all met in Mexico, but we hadn't seen each other for like a week. And we all see each other. We like run and do like a giant group hug.
Yeah.
And another coach from a different school was there, and she's like, "Is this how you
Is
guys
this
greet each other
normal?
every day?" And we're like, actually, it is. We do this every day, office. Like, actually, we literally like after a weekend, if we haven't seen each other like the day before, is how we greet each other.
I
Like,
love it. I
we
love it.
enjoy each other. So I've been super, super fortunate. Like I said, I just love them. I think every single one of them is incredibly special at what they do. And above anything else, we all have similar values in what we want for the program and what we want for our players and how we want our players to relate to us. And so that piece is really key. And I think our team also kind of they gravitate towards us because it's good energy, because we enjoy each other so much. Sometimes they laugh. They're like, we can hear you guys coming to practice because we can hear you laughing, like before you get walked through the gate. Right. Like, and that's how it is. We just love each other. And so I think they kind of vibe off that and kind of feel that energy.
Yeah, and I think that like again, it to me is like teams that can like have success over and over, repeatable success is it's all like the little things that matter. It's not some like some magic decision. It's that to me, that connection that you guys have just trickles down into them and probably they feel more connected and allows them to feel more connected to you. And so it's like all those little things, the basics, right? The boring things. It's like, okay, how do we move the team forward? It's like we need to get closer as a staff. And it sounds so stupid and boring and mundane, and it sounds silly, but like that's probably like your superpower, to be
Mhm.
quite honest.
Oh yeah. And it's really fascinating. And I had a lot of, well, over my maternity leave, I was mostly at home with the baby by myself for a long time. So I got to do a lot of thinking.
Yeah,
Um,
a lot of thoughts, a
and
lot of thoughts.
yeah, yeah, it's like the most like boring and exhausting thing that you do is taking care of an infant. Like it's sometimes boring. They're sleeping on you or something, but it's also exhausting because you're on demand all the time. It's fascinating. But I was really reflecting just on our staff and our season and everything. And one thing that I recognized that I think is really special is like because our staff is so close, like when things get hard, rather than that being divisive, our tendency, because we're so close, is to come together. And I think
Yeah,
that is really huge. It's huge from a standpoint of just being more effective, but it's also huge from a modeling standpoint to the team, where it's like, I'm
yes,
never going to stand in front of the group and be like, well, Ryan didn't do a good job with set pieces, so that's why we lost. I will never ever say that. Like, and even if like one of my staff is having a hard time, like my inclination is to go to them and be like, hey, like this needs to be better, but how can I help you? Like, what can we do? Let's
yeah,
get in a room and figure it out. Not like that needs to be better, and that's why we lost. And now we're all of a sudden like, absolutely not. That's not our tendency. So, yeah, I was really reflecting over that in the last few weeks. And also just because as I've kind of gone through a difficult time, not a negative time, just like being a new mom is hard. My
totally.
staff has been so supportive that it really brought that to light. Where I was like, look, if any of us need help, like I think we are the ones to call. Like if something goes on in my life, aside of course from my husband, like if something goes on and I'm in a pinch and I need help, it's my staff that I call. Soccer,
Right.
like UCLA related or not. And I think they feel the same way, where it's like, okay, look, I'm in a bind, like this just happened, or something happened with my family, or I just need help with my dog, or whatever it is. Like we are kind of each other's support group. So um, going through the birth of my daughter and the subsequent weeks beyond that, like it has been really, really clear. It's like how much we really do support each other.
Yeah, they're probably the ones to tell you to take your butt home.
Yeah,
Like,
actually not really, because I've been bringing my daughter to work quite a bit because
oh, even
like
better.
there's just things we have to do in the office. And so it's more of like who's going to hold her. We just like pass her around for everyone holds her for like 30, 40 minutes at a time while the other ones are doing work. Um, but yeah, like we have that relationship of like we're just here. Whatever you need, we're here.
Yeah.
And I think our players pick up on that. They see us acting that way to each other. So then they know too, if something's on in their life, they just call and we're like, yeah, we got it. Drop everything. We're here. What do you need? Um, I see them doing that for each other, which is really cool. Um, so yeah, I've been so fortunate that my staff is, who I would consider some of my closest friends and just like people in my life that I can rely on.
Yeah. 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 Totally. So going down the personal route, are you from California? How'd you meet your husband?
I am from California, although the first 5 years of my life I lived in New Jersey, but I don't remember those really. So I say I'm from California.
Yeah.
Um, he and I went to college together, but
Okay.
we were not really friends in college. We both played soccer at Santa Clara. Um, he was an incredible player. He was like, in my view, he was a big man on campus. Everyone knew who he was. It's a small school, but still everyone knew.
Right.
Um, big personality, like captain of the team, just kind of a prolific player for Santa Clara. And so we were in a similar group of people, but we never really connected individually. And then it was after college, actually, that I was coaching club. He was hoping to get into coaching because he was working on his master's degree and needed a job that kind of fit that schedule. And so
Yeah.
coaching lends itself to that. You can do class in the morning, coach in the afternoon. Yeah. So he reached out hoping to get a job in the club that I was coaching in, managed to help him do that. And then we just hit it off. Um, he says that this is kind of I almost told this story as a funny story. Um, the night that he said that, we were like, oh, actually, this could be something. He said the moment he realized is when we all went out, we were having a great time, ended up at Subway, like late night at Subway. And he's like, so many girls, choose to eat a salad or something. And you ordered a 12-inch meatball
Yeah.
sandwich. I was like, yeah, like starving, like, he
Oh,
was like,
that's
it was
fun.
at that moment. And I was like, all right, like she's cool, like she doesn't care. So
Totally.
yeah, that's kind of how we bonded over a long meatball
Oh,
sandwich.
Subway.
And yeah, Subway, where the sparks fly at Subway. um and so yeah, I should do NIL with Subway. um and so that's kind of how we met in this different relationship, I guess you could say, than the one we had in college, where we were just friends and kind of like orbited around each other, but we weren't really that close. And he's awesome. He's a coach as well now, so he coaches at Angel City, the pro team. I think he's incredible on the field. Like a lot of our relationship, it's about coaching
Yeah.
and about game, how much we love the game and been able to enjoy that together. He's in some ways my biggest critic. I'll come home and he's like, all right, so like, were you guys trying to sit so low, or like, so we have many discussions that way. But we learn a lot from each other, and I think we just support each other as much as we can. And I tend to be a little more on the reserve side, and he's a much bigger personality. Um, just kind of like lights up the room that he's in always. And so, yeah, he's great. His name's Michael. He's awesome. It's been fun to see him become a dad. That's been kind of a whole brand new thing. We parent very differently. That's also a big challenge, but
I'm,
I think we enjoy watching each other parent, but it's not how I would do it. I'm like, oh, I would have never thought to do that, but that is king, so that is good.
I love it. I love it. Yeah.
Yeah, he's
So,
great.
what's been his like? The reason I ask is I would say, like, what's been the biggest like personality? I don't know if personality is the right word. Um, we'll use it and then I'll explain it. Like personality shift after having a kid. I'll say like for me is like I was the most impatient person ever. And then like after having a daughter, it's like I had to very quickly learn to like woosah in the moment and like learn to be patient. So in the 9 weeks, have you seen kind of like a transit, or even you personally, what's kind of been for you or him?
Yeah, I think for me, like just this, um, it's humble in some way. Like you think, and our daughter is fairly easygoing. Like, don't get me wrong. She's
Yeah.
like at least responsive. Like if she has a wet diaper and change it, she stops crying. If she's hungry and you feed her, she stops crying. Like she's pretty easygoing. But there are still moments where you're just like 3 in the morning and she's not even crying. She's just wide awake. And you're like, just need sleep. Like this is hard. And so for me, like just sitting in that has not been easy, because that's not a feeling I have faced too often in my life. I've been fortunate that way. Where you're like, you just can't do what you want to do. Like I just
Yeah.
want to sleep, but I literally can't do that right now.
Yeah.
That that's been a hard challenge for me. Like I said, also just like being more intentional. I think Michael and I, our relationship has always come really easy to us. And so having to be a lot more intentional with finding time to connect, like that's been hard just because it's been different. And it's like you're all of a sudden trying to find time in a moment where you've never felt like you've had less time. So that's hard.
Yeah.
Um, I for him, one thing he has mentioned is he's a very expressive person for sure. Like he wears his emotions kind of on his sleeve. He's very boisterous. He's very loud, like, very excitable. But I think the like deepness of the feelings he has for our daughter has hit him. Like how you can just love something so much. It's just different. And so he'll find himself talking to her in a way, and he's like, I have never talked to anybody in my life like this. Like, you know, he's like, what am I saying? But it just comes out. Like, and so watching him go through that has been really sweet. And just kind of like he's found a softer side to himself that I don't think he
Yeah.
expected necessarily.
Uh,
Yeah, and it's been awesome to see. He's a very heartfelt guy. Like he really is like very sensitive in the best way possible, like very thoughtful of how everyone's feeling and how he's making everybody feel. Like he really cares about that. And that's one of the things I really love about him. But it's really fun to see like him just connect with this tiny little infant that it just looks at him also. Like we have so many pictures of him looking at her or of her looking at him like he's the best thing in the world. And it's like as a mom, that's been one of my favorite things.
yeah, especially again, I've only got one and it does happen to be a girl too, but something about being a girl dad, like there's just something about it too that like lures you into talking to it like you never even, yeah, because my wife will say the same thing. And then from your perspective, she'll always say, it's like, I feel like once a month, she's like, we created that. Like, did you know that? Like, we created that human being. I'm like,
I know.
we
We look
did.
at her
We
all the
did.
time.
Oh, that's too
Yeah,
funny.
it is really funny.
So,
It
all
is,
right.
but it's awesome. And yeah, it's like a, oh, go ahead.
No, I finish up.
Oh, no, I'm just saying it was saying is like awesome. Like you look at this little being and starting to smile, she's starting to laugh, like starting to have a little and seeing each other in her is really fun. But then also seeing parts of her that you're like, okay, that is neither one of us. Like,
Yeah.
what that, like is also really fun. So it's like very, very excited to see kind of the person that's going to be and her little personality really, really is going to be like in the next couple of years.
Yeah. And it like, it starts to happen really fast. Like you wake up one day and they're like we're potty trained. She's like, Daddy, get out of here. I'm like, wait, what? We were best
Yeah.
friends 30 seconds ago. Why are you so yeah. And it's like literally, like I said, like overnight. Yeah, yeah. The more the personality comes out, or even my wife too, she'll be like, who do you think she looks like? And I'm like, it is a spitting image of you. She's like, you think so? I'm like, a spitting image of you. Every day she wakes up, she's more and more a spitting image of you. Oh, so
Yeah, that part's so fun. My family says like sometimes she just gets a look in her eye. Yeah, when she gets that look, it's just like a mirror image. These cool. It's like my husband. Like she'll look at you like, "Are you thinking?" And I'm like, "Wait,
yeah. Oh, you there? I lost you for a second. You still there?
oh yeah, no, I'm."
Okay. All right, last question, and I'll let you get back to being mom. All right, so didn't pre-frame you for this one. If you were in a stadium with 100,000 people and you could only leave them with one message, what would your message be?
I don't. Wow, that's a lot.
That was a heavy question.
Um, I think I would just talk to them about like finding joy in what you're doing. I, I think that's so important. Um, and life is short. Like you only get to do what you're doing. Or you don't get to choose how long, honestly. And so it's like just find something that you truly enjoy and that you
Yeah,
is out the best version of who you are. I'm very fortunate to feel that in coaching. Like I truly love it. And I think it brings out my best qualities. Um, and I think because I've experienced that now as the rest goes on, experiencing anything less than that won't feel like enough. And I think that's really important. So that would be my message. Like just go find something. Let the outside influences sway you from that. Like something that you truly and that you feel like brings out the best in you.
yeah. I definitely feel like that's good. I feel like so many people get sucked into just doing things, and then 40 years pass and they're just like, well, this is just the way life is, kind of type thing, whether it be something that their parents wanted or society or friends or peers or whoever it is. And like, it's enough to pay the bills. And so they just don't think about it versus like really finding something that I call it the difference between inspiration and motivation. Being inspired to do something is what pulls you out of bed. Being motivated is why you got to play the video to get out of bed in the morning. And when you're inspired by something that you love to do, it's easy to get up. It's easy to want to go into the office. It's easy to want to bring your daughter to the office because like you just truly enjoy being in that environment and around those people. So I love that. That's good. It's really good.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's how I feel. My husband teases me. He's like, how do you wake up so happy every day? I'm like, well, I like my life.
Do not like yours. Do not like me.
Yeah. Like I really love my life. I,
Oh, I love it. I love it. Well, I appreciate it. This was fun. Thanks for jumping on. Thanks for, like I said, just sharing conversation is, just to reiterate, I think like the purpose of the platform is I think to share stories. Everybody gets tired of me like flapping my gums. And so it's just to bring people on. Everybody has their own story, and going back to connection, I think certain people just connect with certain stories. And so I feel like the more stories we get out there, the more people are just inspired to do the things that they want to do. And so just finding stories that we connect to. So I appreciate it.
yeah, no, thanks for having me on. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, absolutely. Until next time, everybody. Peace.